Solidity includes some built-in functions that can help us to ensure valid conditions in our programs. It has require and revert. These functions can be used to check for conditions and throw exceptions if conditions are not met. Let's learn by example. If you remember the previous exercise, when we created the compare numbers function, now let's put in practice the require. Imagine that we want to validate that only numbers greater than 0 are valid. So the way we use require is simply saying require that number 1 is greater than 0 and number 2 is also greater than 0. And then require will accept, first this is the condition, but also we have the possibility to specify a message, and we could say invalid data. Okay? So here I was missing the number 1, okay? And now it's okay. Alright, so by using require, we are validating the data that is entered in the function. Let's test it. Let's say I want to call compare numbers, and I'm gonna pass 0 and 0, and I'm getting a revert. And as you can see, we can also see the message invalid data. So when the condition that we are specifying in require is not met, the system will trigger an exception that will revert all the state changes that we are doing, plus is going to refund all the leftover gas to the person who is calling this function. Something to notice is that when we deploy the smart contract, let's clean here, and I'm deploying the smart contract, and you can see that the transaction cost was 432,000 gas approximately. Okay, Solidity from the version 0.8.4 introduced something called custom errors, and custom errors are very good in comparison with require because it consumes less gas, and we are gonna check it just now. So custom errors are a way to basically define, let's say, error invalid numbers. So here I'm declaring an error, but now I'm gonna, instead of using a require, I'm gonna include an if, and in this if I'm gonna say if number 1 is equals to 0 and number 2 is equals to 0, we are gonna revert and we are gonna pass invalid number. So similar to, if you remember the example of the for loop where we were calling break and the execution was a stop, that was the execution of the for loop. However, here by calling revert, we are explicitly saying when this condition happens, I want you to revert all the changes of the state and trigger an execution. Is very similar to require, but here We don't need any condition. We can simply say revert, for instance, and that's it. The function is never going to be able to be called from someone. Or yes, you can call it, but it's going to be reverted. So the good thing about revert is that you can also pass information, like in this case we are passing the error. So by passing the error we are adding more information so the users can really know what the problem was. Remember that previously we spent this on gas. Let's deploy again and let's make a comparison, because custom errors are very gas efficient. So instead of using require, I recommend using errors. So let's deploy, and as you can see the transaction cost is 408,000. Okay, but we are saving more than 30, well, around 24,000 gas, which is a huge improvement. But as the contract start getting larger, you are going to have a lot of require, and you are going to notice more the improvement thanks to using custom errors. Let's finally call compare with 00. We call it, and as you can see, it's also reverting, and we can see the error provided by the contract is invalid number. So as you can see, we can achieve the same goals, but we are saving a bit of gas. All right.